Have you ever felt weighed down by the sheer number of things you own, or the obligations you keep, only to wonder if perhaps having less might actually bring you more peace? According to the Buddha's gentle guidance, true fulfillment does not stem from how much we collect or achieve, but from our capacity to remain present and appreciative of what already exists in our hands. Today, let us explore a story about a prosperous king, unburdened by resources yet strangely dissatisfied, and a humble fisherman who leads a modest life but radiates a genuine sense of contentment. This account reveals how simplicity, rather than abundance, can become a secret gateway to freedom and happiness. Across many teachings, the Buddha points us toward learning to let go of excessive desires and attachments, urging us to instead turn inward, discovering that peace arises from understanding our real needs. When you truly pause and observe, you may notice that what you frequently crave does not necessarily lead to lasting joy. Perhaps you have recognized moments of stress or emptiness even while surrounded by comforts. That awareness is a vital nudge to question the endless pursuit of more. Much like the fisherman in our upcoming tale, we can discover that even a simple meal, shared with a clear heart and an unburdened mind, can bring an immeasurable sense of security and warmth. As we embark on this journey, I invite you to consider the areas of your own life where you might practice letting go of excess, be it possessions, tasks, or self-imposed expectations. Reflect on how stripping away clutter can create space not only for calmness but also for genuine appreciation of your present blessings. In the spirit of the Buddha's wisdom, know that by simplifying your external world, you nourish an inner climate of serenity. Prepare to hear how a king's wealth did not necessarily ensure his happiness, while a fisherman's modest existence opened the door to true contentment. Imagine a majestic king who lives in a grand palace adorned with gold and precious ornaments, surrounded by servants who cater to his every demand. From the outside, it appears as though he has it all: affluence, influence, and comfort. Yet, despite these opulent surroundings, a quiet restlessness gnaws at his heart, whispering that something vital is missing. One day, driven by curiosity and a desire for fresh air, he travels down to the seaside where a humble fisherman sits by his modest boat, humming contentedly while sorting through his daily catch. Intrigued, the king questions how this man, with so little wealth and no servants at his beck and call, can remain so calm and seemingly fulfilled. Embodying the Buddha's gentle wisdom, the fisherman explains that by possessing only what is truly necessary and meaningful, he finds freedom from worry and anxiety. He works just enough to secure a simple meal for himself and his family, leaving him ample time to rest, reflect, and enjoy moments of genuine connection with loved ones. His world is not cluttered by excess pursuits or the endless hunger for more. While the king holds power and opulence, he also wrestles with perpetual concerns about expanding his domain, preserving his status, and gaining others' admiration. The fisherman, on the other hand, wakes each morning with a clear purpose and an untroubled mind, certain that the day ahead will be sufficient. In Buddhism, this contrast underlines the principle that genuine contentment does not spring from accumulating ever more possessions or achievements. Instead, the Buddha taught that real peace comes through a mindful relationship with the present moment, alongside a conscious effort to reduce needless desires and distractions. The fisherman's life, though lacking in luxury, offers a model of mindful simplicity, attuned to the rhythms of nature and open to the blessings that often remain hidden when we chase grander goals. His story resonates with the teachings that when we let go of clinging and craving, we cultivate space for gratitude, presence, and sincere joy. Reflect on your own life and consider where you might simplify. Perhaps there are items you rarely use that still demand upkeep, obligations that weigh on your spirit yet yield minimal returns, or even mental clutter that saps your energy and attention. The fisherman's modest existence encourages us to pare down the superfluous and reconnect with what genuinely brings us happiness. From the Buddha's perspective, it is not the quantity of your possessions or accolades that matters, but whether your heart can find calmness amidst the tide of worldly desires. Ultimately, by trading surplus for substance and learning to appreciate the small wonders of life, you may awaken to a sense of liberation that not even the grandest palace can replicate. In the midst of a grand palace, with servants bustling about, and ornate treasures adorning every hall, the king in our stories stood increasingly restless, torn between his lavish reality and the nagging suspicion that something vital was missing from his life. Meanwhile, a humble fisherman, rising before dawn in his coastal village, quietly prepared his small boat each day, casting his net with simple faith that the sea would provide enough for his needs. Where the king felt burdened, anxious about maintaining an ever-growing empire of belongings, the fisherman found solace in his unhurried routines and the knowledge that a modest catch could sustain not only his body, but also his spirit. This contrast echoes a principle the Buddha often emphasized. The heart of genuine happiness does not lie in accumulation, but in mindful simplicity. Whenever we become enthralled by the notion that more is always better, we risk complicating our lives to the point where the weight of our possessions, commitments, and ambition stifles the inner peace we yearn to attain. The king, forever tasked with protecting his wealth and expanding his influence, discovered that the very assets he deemed crucial to his identity had instead become shackles. In Buddhist thought, this circumstance parallels the concept of tanha, or craving, which the Buddha taught is a primary source of human suffering. While external goods or achievements may offer fleeting pleasure, chasing them without restraint can turn into a treadmill that propels us farther from tranquility. The fisherman, by contrast, awakened early with a humble yet clear intention. He knew that a single net of fish would be sufficient for his daily sustenance, allowing him ample time to enjoy the sunrise, share a meal with loved ones, or simply rest his mind without concern for expanding his worldly possessions. Far from laziness, his approach signaled a profound appreciation for what he had, echoing the Buddha's teaching of tri-tuk, a practice of being content with enough. Importantly, the fisherman's life was not devoid of effort. He rose with discipline each morning to engage in his work. Yet, his effort never escalated into relentless pursuit of excessive bounty. He found joy in the natural rhythm of his tasks, preserving both his physical energy and his mental clarity. What lesson, then, can we glean from the fisherman's contentment amidst modest means compared to the king's relentless quest for more? For one, we see how illusions of grandeur can obscure the warmth of life's small blessings. Much like thick clouds blocking out the sun's gentle rays. From the Buddha's perspective, the king's dissatisfaction arises because his mind remains fixated on future acquisitions and the fear of losing his existing treasures. In contrast, the fisherman dwells in the present moment, nurturing gratitude for the simplicity that shapes his everyday experience. Observing this dynamic, we begin to sense that peace emerges when we cease dwelling on the next possession or the next accomplishment and instead appreciate the spaces that open in our hearts when we do not burden them with superfluous attachments. Practical wisdom emerges from this story when we consider ways to simplify our own lives. It might begin by taking a mindful inventory of our routines, possessions, and mental obligations. Are there items in our homes that serve no real purpose beyond cluttering our surroundings? Are we saying yes to tasks that drain our energy without offering real growth or joy? The fisherman's acceptance of enough fish to feed himself and those he loves without chasing a grand fortune can inspire us to reevaluate how we spend our time and resources. A life lived under constant pressure to upgrade everything, our electronics, wardrobes, vehicles, can be replaced by a sense of spaciousness and intentionality when we pause to ask ourselves, Is this truly necessary? And does it serve my well-being or that of others? From a Buddhist lens, this practice of simplifying stems not from avoiding ambition or rejecting all material comfort, but rather from recognizing that craving binds us to a cycle of dissatisfaction. As we let go of compulsive consumption, we free ourselves to focus on matters of genuine importance, nurturing loving relationships, embracing self-discovery, engaging in purposeful work, or simply savoring the quiet wonder of each day. The fisherman's example suggests that riches measured in gold and palatial estates pale in comparison to the richness of a mind at rest, untroubled by the weight of endless desires. Meanwhile, the king's uneasy heart reflects the price we pay when we equate worthiness with possessions, or equate busyness with fulfillment. Perhaps the greatest challenge is resisting societal pressure, which often equates success with outward displays of prosperity. Although the fisherman's home likely lacked the king's luxuries, it brimmed with contentment, laughter, and a sense of balance. This model reminds us that we do not have to banish aspiration from our lives. Rather, we can channel our aspirations inward to become kinder, more mindful, and more grateful, rather than chasing the illusion of permanent satisfaction through material gain. For those who walk the Buddhist path, or any path of self-awareness, the essential focus is on how we cultivate our minds and hearts, not how we decorate our external circumstances. Finally, the fisherman's quiet joy calls us to act. Consider adopting one small change this week to simplify your life. Perhaps clearing out a cluttered corner, setting aside extra time for meaningful connection with family, or spending a peaceful moment each morning practicing mindfulness instead of hurrying through tasks. Each conscious step towards simplicity, each intention to gather only what we need and appreciate the beauty of less brings us closer to the ease the fisherman embodied and the satisfaction the king so desperately sought. Aligning with this principle, we inch closer to the Buddha's teaching that true happiness can blossom when our hearts open to the present, freed from the endless cycle of wanting more. By doing so, we allow ourselves room to breathe, discover stillness, and cultivate a lasting sense of wholeness that transcends worldly trappings. Consider how modern life often encourages us to accumulate more gadgets, more obligations, more ambitions. We assume that by adding layers of possessions or responsibilities, we are advancing toward a richer, more fulfilling experience. Yet, as the Buddha reminds us, genuine enrichment arises when we cultivate clarity of mind and recognize what truly serves our well-being. Reflecting on the story of the wealthy king and the humble fisherman, we see how abundance without contentment leads only to restlessness. while mindful simplicity invites a profound sense of ease and gratitude. Today, let us explore how to integrate this principle into our everyday lives, allowing ourselves to rediscover the freedom hidden in choosing less. In the earlier parts of this exploration, we heard how the fisherman, despite his modest means, lived each day with calm acceptance of his modest portion, free from the endless cycle of craving more. He found ample time to engage in quiet reflection, savor the laughter shared with loved ones, and greet each morning with a clear purpose. The king, on the other hand, wrestled with the upkeep of his palatial estate and the weight of always needing to expand his dominion or elevate his status. Although wealth surrounded him, he remained anxious and unsatisfied, perpetually seeking something that no sum of possessions could deliver. This disparity highlights a crucial teaching the Buddha offered. Pursuing more can mask an underlying emptiness, whereas learning to see the riches of what we already have can light the path to genuine happiness. At first glance, adopting a simpler lifestyle may appear daunting. Society encourages us to measure success through accumulation, leading us to fill our homes, schedules, and minds with an array of items and tasks we barely have time to appreciate. Yet, the fisherman exemplifies that simplicity is not about deprivation. It is about stripping away the superfluous, trusting that fewer belongings or fewer obligations can free us to focus on what genuinely matters. In many Buddhist teachings, this notion aligns with the practice of letting go, or non-attachment, meaning we consciously avoid clinging to anything that does not serve our true peace of mind. Rather than being a denial of life's pleasures, it is an invitation to concentrate our energy on the joys that run deeper than physical acquisitions. A practical starting point is to look around and identify one aspect of your life that feels unnecessarily heavy. It might be a collection of items you do not use, commitments you no longer find meaningful, or even a pattern of thought that drains your spirit more than it uplifts. Adopt a stance of gentle inquiry. Ask yourself how releasing or reducing that element might create space for mental clarity and emotional calm. If you find it difficult to let go, remember the Buddha's reminder that freedom often comes through willingness to release attachments. As you practice this, you may notice that far from feeling deprived, you experience a subtle sense of relief, relieved of the burden of upkeep or guilt that such excess can bring. Moreover, this principle applies not only to physical possessions, but to our emotional landscape as well. The fisherman's untroubled heart rested on the fact that he did not chase every opportunity, nor did he compare his achievements to those of more affluent neighbors. By disengaging from envy or the relentless push to do more, be more, or own more, he preserved both his well-being and his sense of purpose. We, too, can shift our focus away from comparing ourselves to others, and instead direct that energy toward developing our inner qualities: compassion, patience, or insight. In doing so, we abide by the Buddha's call to nurture the mind as the source of true liberation, recognizing that a quieter, less cluttered environment often mirrors a calmer, less distracted mind. Some might worry that simplifying leads to complacency or stagnation. On the contrary, it provides an opportunity to channel our efforts more wisely, pouring our energy into pursuits that align with our core values. When the fisherman rose with the dawn, he did so with devotion and awareness, performing his tasks wholeheartedly and without dividing his mind among excessive wants. This deliberate practice of focus and intention can help us find deeper satisfaction in our work, our relationships, and our spiritual practices, all of which flourish when not overshadowed by incessant craving. This perspective also resonates with the concept of interconnection, another principle the Buddha emphasized. By choosing simplicity, we reduce waste, lessen our footprint on the environment, and cultivate empathy for those who lack even basic necessities. This compassionate approach to living goes beyond personal advantage. It underscores how living with less but enough benefits not only ourselves but also our communities. In that sense, each step toward simplification becomes a step toward collective well-being. Ultimately, the king's discontent was not due to any lack of resources but to a lack of clarity about what truly fosters happiness. In contrast, the fisherman's life showed that less can indeed be more, particularly when grounded in mindfulness and contentment. If you decide to embrace this path, begin gently, acknowledging that it is a process. Perhaps you donate one item each day, decline one obligation that does not serve your growth, or set aside time to savor a simple meal with loved ones without distraction. Such mindful steps illuminate the way forward, inviting you to experience firsthand how less can reveal more space for gratitude, more time for shared joy, and more peace in your heart. This approach, rooted in letting go of what no longer nourishes our spirit, resonates with the Buddha's insight that happiness arises most readily in a mind unburdened by needless attachments. May the fisherman's calm example and the king's sobering realization inspire you to examine your life and find places to lighten your load. In reducing what is unnecessary, you open the door to a more focused, compassionate existence, gently reflecting the timeless wisdom of Buddha's teachings in every dimension of your daily living. As we reach the end of this journey, let us remember the lesson offered by the king and the fisherman. While the king possessed an abundance of wealth and influence, he carried a restlessness in his heart that no amount of treasure could quiet. The humble fisherman, on the other hand, chose to live simply, catching only the fish he needed and savoring daily life with a calm, contented spirit. His modest routine revealed a deeper sense of fulfillment than all the trappings of royalty could provide. From the Buddha's perspective, this contrast points us toward a gentle but powerful truth. Genuine happiness unfolds not through relentless accumulation, but through conscious appreciation of what is truly essential. In our modern world, it is easy to feel consumed by the pursuit of more possessions, more accomplishments, or more praise. Yet, as the fisherman's life so vividly demonstrates, there is great freedom in mindful restraint. By recognizing that unbridled craving often leads to anxiety, we can free ourselves from the weight of constant wants. The Buddha taught that letting go of excessive attachments does not mean giving up enjoyment. Rather, it transforms our focus, allowing us to savor each blessing more fully, and without the nagging sense that we should be endlessly chasing the next desire. If you decide to simplify any aspect of your life, start with an honest look at the items you barely use, or the tasks that drain your energy without bringing real purpose. Challenge yourself to part with one unnecessary thing, maybe an object, a mental burden, or a self-imposed expectation. As you do so, notice how your spirit lightens, how your mind clears. This act of decluttering, whether physical or emotional, opens a space for gratitude and tranquility to thrive. Ultimately, the simplest truth this story offers is that less can indeed be more. By choosing to live in harmony with our genuine needs, we cultivate a sense of balance, thereby awakening the deeper joys that the Buddha so often reminded us to seek. May this realization guide you toward a life that remains light, purposeful, and abundantly joyful. If this exploration into simpler living and genuine contentment has resonated with you, I warmly invite you to like this video and subscribe to my channel. By doing so, you help strengthen a supportive community that values mindful simplicity and shares in the pursuit of real happiness. Every engagement from you encourages me to bring more insights rooted in Buddhist principles and practical wisdom. Together, we can continue learning how to free our hearts, lighten our burdens, and uplift each other on this path of mindful transformation.